And welcome to Racing, Pacing, Chasing. It is Season 2, Episode 20. I'm Aaron Bain, joined by regular co-host Rocky Butterworth. Tonight we've got a very special guest on from the outset, George Fiacchi. Welcome, George.
Thank you, Aaron.
Welcome, George.
Good to be here too, Rock.
Needs no introduction, Chairman of the Harness Racing SA Board, and he answered the call last week. We put it out there, and unfortunately we didn't get on a couple of weeks ago as well. Other commitments got in the way. We appreciate you joining us tonight, George, to follow on from last week's show. And Rock, throw to you a little bit. What about the show? It's near on 5,000 views as we go here tonight, so probably crack it by the weekend. It's been well received, and we're going to talk a little bit about it. I think it was very constructive, the comments I've had at the races on Saturday night. Certainly some good things come out of it, and we'll throw to it in a minute, but certainly...
Well, from my point of view, with it made it, we average around about 1,000 to 1,500 views a week, which we think is a good number, and sponsors think it's a good number. What it's proven is that there are a lot of harness racing people out there, mate. They may not go anymore, and they may be the silent minority, but when something was there for them to watch and realise that the five blokes that were on the panel were as passionate as anybody could be about harness racing, all of a sudden we're getting that 5,000 views. So for me, the answer was, yes, we can fix this, but anybody who sits on their hands or just says, oh, well, they can do it because I'm not, it's going to be dead.
True. I actually thought the 5,000 views because you went on it, but anyway.
I was going to get that a bit later and be barbecue. So.
But you're taking credit for it, all good.
I wrote all the notes.
I put them in my notes, George. But and what probably more importantly, right on the back of the 5,000 views to support it, there was 30 odd shares, there were near on 40 odd comments. A lot of likes on the page as well. But in recapping, and we'll touch on some of it here tonight with you, George, and again, thanks for joining us. The first topic of discussion was the rating system, which, reading across your notes, is first one on your agenda, so we'll get to that in a minute. Prize money was obviously well spoken about. The breeding and yearling sale numbers, as well, and we give some examples there. It was good to get Toby's input. And also then, horse numbers, and also how we attract that owner, and we spoke to Ryan on that. He said he's sort of struggling with that at the moment, as is everyone, but while there's light at the end of the tunnel, we try not to be doom and gloom about it. We want to try and also create that hope that there is chance, and that with the new board and led by yourself, I no doubt that's what you're trying to create here at the moment as well.
It is, and look, it was a good show, and I got sent to it Friday night, and at the start of it, I thought, oh, here we go. So when you went around the table and asked everyone for their one-word answer,
it wasn't a great start.
Let me just slash my wrist now. Anyway, but it was good. It was constructive. Most of it was constructive, and there were some good discussions in there. And a lot of it I highlighted and put in some notes to people saying this is probably something we should look at. Some of it's not really on a priority scheme of things, not really what we have as priorities. But the big question is, obviously the rating system and prize money, and it's all about money. Every time I talk to someone, the thousands of people I've spoken to, like maybe I shouldn't say thousands, hundreds of people I've spoken to, it's all about, money, give me money, give me money. Now, the issue we have is, in business basics, everyone knows business basics, money comes in, comes in, expenses go out. Okay, so there's only so much that comes in that we can put out. People say, go to the government for X amount of money. I said, you need to understand how harness racing works here in South Australia and how much money you spend just putting racing on. And I've got a breakdown, which I'm happy to share to people, but we understand it's not perfect, it's not ideal at the moment, but we are trying to change it. Prize money in particular is something that you'll see in the next, probably, I can't preempt too much, but in July, you'll see it return back to the levels pre-COVID, because we've actually had a pretty good run. TAB revenues is way down, about 50%, but the corporates has really jumped up. It's over 250% up, which is fantastic because we make more money out of the corporates than we do out of the TAB. So you'll see prize money jump back. And we're also starting to introduce, so we looked at what's a perfect world look like, Aaron, and I suppose for you as a trainer and driver as well, is $10,000 a race, is that going to solve all your problems?
And we spoke, and Wayne actually had a good point. He actually discussed this, the prize money. It's not about, we don't expect overnight to click our fingers and he'd be back to 7 or 10 grand races. You do 10 grand races, that doesn't see the longevity of the industry, and we want longevity and it's just pleasing to hear that July, August, we may return to pre-COVID, and hopefully we do. 10 grand won't solve the problems because you can only have so many of those races week in, week out, and otherwise will be gone in 3 months, 6 months, the money will disappear. So it's about being innovative, and I think that links back to the rating system. That's what we discussed last week. How do we attract that other level of horses or owners to pick the phone up. The phones, and I talk from my point of view, when we were once training 30, we're sort of down to 15, Ryan the same. The phones aren't ringing. So how do we get owners from interstate, my horse is spent, you know, and how do we bring them to SA? And Perth have got their own rating system, Queensland have got their own rating system, New South Wales. It's not all about money, you know, and yeah, to me it's not, because everyone here does it because they love it, you know, at the end of the day, and it's being innovative, you know. So I'll throw that back to you, and I no doubt it's on the discussion of the board. We somewhat, and a consensus last week was, how do we have that SA rating system that attracts people to come?
Yeah. So you'll see some changes to the rate. And again, I've heard it plenty of times, and I talk to people and they say, oh, they've got different, but reality is WA does their own thing.
100%.
The rest of them are very similar.
Yeah.
Queensland has a modified version of it, but you know, Sydney and Melbourne are very close, and of course we've tapped into it. Yeah. Now, I understand it doesn't work for South Australia. I totally get it, but we can't just go, we're pulling out of this. It would cost us a fortune to pull out of it and set up our own system. So we need to be smart with it. So what I ask people like yourself and Rocky and those in the industry, what works? What's going to work? Tell me what's going to work. Don't tell me it's broken, but and then come without a suggestion. What's going to make this work?
Yeah, and I think that's what the panel last week was very, and I think if you asked us, and I'd be happy to sit around a table with yourself, Ross Newell, Simon Ewan, myself, Ryan, Toby, Jake, David Harding, we'd all be happy to sit. Now, we haven't been called to a forum yet to sit around and discuss how does this rating system look. And Jake actually made a comment on the Facebook post that get these people involved, get Toby to put forward that proposal on LASIX. Now, that is absolutely out there, may not work, right? Absolutely not. It's just an idea. A lot of them work. Bring us to the table and let's get a whiteboard, and like we all do in business days, and help create that plan of what turns this industry around. We're not, and I said on the radio, I spoke on 1197 only 2 weeks prior to doing that panel. I spoke on the panel as well. I certainly am not one to be negative. I want to stay positive, right? But we've got to deal with the facts and reality that face us at the moment. And I 100% agree with what you're saying. I think there are a lot of solutions to this problem. We have to pick the eyes out of them and come up with what it is. Now, we're not going to solve it here tonight.
No.
But what is pleasing for me to hear is that you're wanting to hear that. So now I would say, get 5 or 6 of the top industry stakeholders, trainers, drivers, that mix. Let's get to that room, like we tried to start last Thursday, or when it went there Friday night, and hopefully that's the start of it. People want to talk. Now, you've got to sort through the chaff and the wheat and to get out what actually works, because you don't want the whinging. We need the solutions.
That's exactly
And we don't want to make more problems out of this. We want to make the solution.
Yeah, look, I will say there's no perfect system.
No.
You're never going to get a perfect system.
No.
Our biggest issue is our horse population is not right for our rating system. Totally get it. Right? So our rating system has to be SA-centric. We certainly get that. Now, I've spoken to, yes, we can get experts in, but I've spoken to hundreds of people about what needs to be worked. And no one has come up with something that's workable. They're all worried about their own race. Oh, my horse is blah, blah, blah. I said, it's not about your horse. It's got to be about harness racing first. Because the positive of all this is that all of a sudden, we've got horses that previously, once they got to 5 years old, they're gone. But now they can move in and up
so
the classes.
So which leading stables have you spoken to?
Well, individuals. I've not even spoken to certain stables, but individuals, like all the feedback. So we've put a survey out in the industry, and we got over 150 responses to it. We went out with information, and people keep sending through information on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So I'm not. If you want to talk to me, Aaron, I'll say to you, come and talk to me. Yeah. Now, don't expect me to come chasing you.
No, I'm not.
I'm not saying to you. I'm saying to you as a. So if you've got something you need to talk to me, come and talk to me. My phone's open. Like Rocky rings. Anyone rings, and I take the call. Yeah. But again, I say to people, come with a solution. Don't come with me telling me it's broken, but don't tell me how to fix it, because that's the issue we have here. What is going to work for South Australia? Because if you can tell me, we'll implement it.
Yeah. Well, I think the national rating system has to be adjusted for us, and to me that is stakeholders sitting around and working out which is the best rating system for us to follow. But most of us in harness racing are A, because we love it, B, because it's cheaper. Right?
True.
So, which means generally in harness racing, we can take our horses to if they're fit and healthy, we can take them to the races 3 times a month, which is more than our next guest in the racing, Ryan Balfour, can do with his racehorses. Generally two runs a month is all you can get out of them, if you're lucky. And that's accepted in that code. With us, it's not accepted because we want to see the horses go around all the time. Now, if my trainer, now I've got shares in 9, whatever it is, out with Aaron. If we look at the program and we can't see a race for a particular horse that I might be an owner of, doesn't matter, but there's not a race there for 21 days, that it can go in, let alone win it, there's a month training fees that Aaron has to justify to those owners who are in it because it's cheaper, but their horse couldn't go to the races that month unless he wanted to race it out of its class, know that it's going to get beaten, might affect its confidence, form, etc. Or he explains to the owners who either got to shrug their shoulders or say, what am I in this sport for? Horse doesn't go to the races.
No, I hear you. But is that what you're saying? Is that more a programming issue rather than a rating issue?
And
absolutely, mate.
And just leading on from that, the 21 days is probably a little bit far, but there's a lot of conditions, and it's hard for you to know, George, as being a trainer and in it, but every race, well, not every, 85% of races at the moment have got, and I don't like the perception from the other states when they read the programming, and they read it. I read the interstate program. Yeah. No more than 1 win last 3. No more than 2 wins last 5. We're trying to create, and David's doing a great job, and it was discussed, and if not, Toby actually stuck up for the harness racing, and no one actually bagged the racing office. It is a hard job. I don't envy David Thuan's job 1 minute, right? And he's been out there, been a driver and known, but for the limitations and restrictions put on races, you're somewhat not encouraging the better horses in a way. And we put an example forward of the better have times. It's not. We don't want to make this doom and gloom. We're just giving you examples, right? And I think we're trying to create our own SA rating system that's probably just not quite working at the moment. So we need to discuss that. And I don't have the answer for you here tonight, but I'm prepared to put forward.
So all I'll say is. It's evolving, all right? There are some changes coming. You would have seen David would have put something out just recently about a change in programming and making it about wins rather than whatever else he used to do. So it's actually evolving. It's going to change. Now, we've spoken to Rise this week, who's our where all the information goes in, because we need something unique to South Australia. So it is working. We just got to make sure we get it right. We don't want to make it worse. That's the issue. So yes, we are listening. We're not sitting here with our blindfolds on saying, oh no, bad luck, this is what it is. No, we go, okay, we've got to fix that. We've got to get it right. We've got to make people understand. But I will say the strengths of the rating system at the moment is that horses can keep racing until they're 10 years old. That in the past that wouldn't have happened. And we not all the favourites are winning, which is fantastic as well. So last night, one of the horses was about 80-1, which obviously wasn't on. But again, they're the good things about some of the rating. But it's not all about. We understand it's not quite right. Is what's going to work for our horse population? That's going to be difficult because there are going to be some quality horses that are going to beat all the other horses. And then it's up to some of the trainers and the owners and go, well, I don't want to race against that horse, and they pull their horse out. So all it does is it makes a mess. System. It is. So there's a lot of balls in the air that we need to make sure we don't pull one out and destroy the rest.
100%. And I think the takeaway point from there is that you are working, you are listening, and you did sit in and watch that panel last week of 4 very good guests. I just tried to chair that last week. But let's move on from that, because this week or the last week you've released a bit of a statement, or re-released the Cunningham Report. It's been talked about well before your time and caused many debates and arguments. And Ryan actually sent it to me. What do you think? I said, this will probably only start another war, but let's go for it. We've got one last roll of the dice. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Or maybe you want to touch on it first, and then we've got a couple of questions just about it and how this does set our industry up for success and for the future. Well,
look, the basis of the Cunningham Report was before my time, which led on from the Bentley Report, 2007, 2017. So, and we're sitting in limbo, and we've been sitting in limbo. What it clearly wants is one governing body be able to control racing, harness racing here in South Australia. This is what we need, and everyone agrees with that. Yet when it gets to the push comes to shove, everyone's own agenda starts becoming more important than that of harness racing in South Australia. And I'm not talking just about the Club Derby. There's, you start talking to some of the local clubs, oh yeah, but what about this and what about that? No. So we've got to reset the whole industry. And this is what is really annoying me. He says, guys, stop putting yourself first, put harness racing first. Now you as a racing club, doesn't matter where you're based, your role is not about racing. All right, Harness Racing South Australia, if you've done anything right in the last 2 months, we've run race meetings there with no one else around, and we did it really well. Works beautifully, like clockwork. Now, you might tell me some other stories, but what I'm sitting...
I think you've done a tremendous job.
And that's what we should be doing. So we'll run racing, that's what we should be doing. Run racing and all the... Wherever it goes, that's what we need to do. The racing clubs themselves now need to start growing the horse population, the trainers and the owners around them. That's their role now. It's not about racing. Stop thinking about you need to race. You don't need to race because you know what? Punters are going online. They're not coming to the track. They're going online. Now, Victor's a different, unique, and same a little bit to Mount Gambier. They're unique because they're holiday races. But 90% of the people that are going to interact with us are going to be online. So let's be smart about what we do.
No doubt.
So this is what I'm saying. We need to be able to run harness racing and bring everyone with us. At the moment, we can't do that.
Well, from the history of it, George, and I like the fact that you've come in. I like the fact that there's new eyes, new blood. But this report's been around for 6 years. Prior to that, the Bentley. Everyone, when they read it, thought, yeah, not too bad. But as you said, when push came to shove, then the stakeholders got involved and their own agendas become involved. What I like to see in the start of it, you said it's if we don't implement it, harness racing's a fair chance to be dead in 2 years. Right, that's on page 1.
Yep.
If we don't implement
needs this to survive.
It needs, yeah, that's right.
Well, that's what I meant, mate.
That's what I mean. It's gone. And I really liked that until I got to the end, and then I was seeing section 17 that you're looking to develop a 10-year racing plan. Now, to me, I think that's maybe a foot either side of the fence. If we're going to have a 2-year plan, then this is like footy, mate. This is blood on your hands. This is have a steely focus that says I'm not going to listen to anybody who comes to me with their own agenda. I'm not going to listen to anybody who thinks it's not a good idea. We're doing it because if we don't, the 10-year racing plan is going to be a total waste of time because he's not going to be here anyway.
This is let's say the prison bars at Port Adelaide, mate.
Yeah. So
let me ask you guys. So do you want to see the Cunningham Report implemented?
I think the Cunningham Report certainly, yes.
Okay.
One word answer, yes.
Yes, good.
Right?
Well, that's good. So why isn't it implemented? Tell me. Explain to me.
Why?
Well, I do know why, but why is there so much angst about it?
You said it at the start, and I totally this is why we can't move forward as an industry because of the agendas, right? And we all worry about our own. I call it in work terms because I work and I say that we work in our own silos. Like I manufacture silos where we are. You work in your own silos without thinking about the bigger picture and working about your farm. You know, and sooner we get together, like you said, right? And there is one peak body with the interests at best at heart. We can move forward.
Yep.
Yeah.
So one word answer, yes.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, so once we're in place, then we can put in breeding programs. We can do all the stuff that we need to attract horses short term. So long term, it's about breeding. Short term is about attracting horses over here. We get that. Prize money starts to increase. As our wagering starts to increase, so too does our prize money. We'll put on South Australia. So the big push we've got as a board is we want to reward South Australia owners and South Australian trainers. That's the big reward here. Stop letting our big money pools fly over interstate, which is rubbish. In the last 5 years, out of 650k, 619,000 has gone interstate, which is crazy. That money in South Australia will help prop up the industry and grow the industry. That's what we're trying to do.
People here, I think the ones that earn the money here, buy new horses or
exactly.
employ people, or and
we've had success over 2 years with that. With my syndicate, we haven't thought about taking 1 cent out of our syndicate. We just say to Aaron, go and buy another one. Go and buy another one. We'll have a share in that. We'll take a bit of that, and that is the only way this is going to go forward. Aaron said maybe not bring it up, but the syndication side of it is the only real way that you're going to get people back to the track organically.
Yeah. And
the fact that we've set up one with 100 members, we're not races at Globe Derby, Aaron.
Yeah. When?
We might get 70 more people to the races. Now we've got a 200 club and that horse will race in July. We might get 150 that night to go to the races. Now we've got another one in mind that will do the same. It'll be another 100. That to me is the only way we can get people back to the track. We're not going to get the young people. We're not going to get people going out for a meal. People say we've got to attract them back. No, you don't. You've got to look after what you've got and make them bring their families. So it's all done organically in South Australia, and syndication, to me, could create such a fun rivalry and competition between groups, but everyone's got to get on the same page.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the hardest job that you've got.
That's right. And you guys trying to drive it yourself is hard work. You need a body to be able to drive it with you. And I know a couple of people, Aaron, who praise what you do and the feedback you give me, communication, even though it doesn't win, this is what happened, blah, blah. So they love it. So they're really, and it's for $100 there, this is fantastic. Yeah. So they have no dramas doing it again. So we need more of that. Totally get that, and that's just, looking outside the square and say, well, what can we actually do differently? Which is, there's so many things, as a marketing head, as Rock as we like to, there's so many things we can do, but while we're in this disarray and dysfunctional at the moment, we can't do a great deal. Now, harness racing's here, the Globe Derby, the SA HRSA over there, there's a problem we've been dealing with for a number of years.
So the country clubs are probably over here.
Yeah, but the country clubs aren't so bad. They're actually probably on side. They're not too dramatic. I don't have any of them giving us grief. Yeah. So I think they'll come in and start to work
and
with
the
us.
negative publicity around, like you said, the A and the B team at the moment isn't great either.
No, it's not.
And you see a lot of that. And I know you probably come in and you probably had a little bit more hair on your head before you started, and you're pulling it out because it's been like that for years. And this is why the Cunningham Report.
Look, it's a farce. Can I just say the way harness racing, it's a farce. How that club is allowed to operate the way it is a joke. It's an absolute joke. And one way or another, the members got to get off their ass and start to do something about it and drive these people out because it's dysfunctional at best.
When you go back, you're talking to me about marketing and running businesses. The government started Globe Derby way back in 73, whatever it was. In 1974, that constitution should have been changed.
Yes.
Because you can't have volunteers or non-professionals running a organisation of that size with that many assets scattered around the place, millions and millions of dollars worth of assets that grew exponentially every year. The committees changed at the club. To me, you just want to, they keep dodging the punches somehow. Mm. But someone's got to go there and land an uppercut, mate, and fix it up because then that's your first problem solved.
Yeah. And look, I purposely put them aside, different, because we should take up all our time worrying about the racing club. You know what?
Yeah.
Harness racing is bigger than the racing club. Now, what we actually don't need them, to be honest. We just need to race at Globe Derby Park. And the fact we've been able to do that without them having anything to do, it shows you how good racing can be here.
Yeah.
Now we just need to get the rest of the stuff happening. So that's our focus. That'll work itself out eventually. Don't worry about the uppercut. There's about 15 of them just sitting there waiting for them. They're uppercutting themselves.
It's pretty bullish.
They can't keep going the way they're going. So it's just, it's a farce. And you wouldn't let them run your Bunnings bloody barbecue, let alone a club worth so many assets what they've got. So it's crazy. But harness racing, there are green shoots. I'm going to finish this off by saying there are some real green shoots. What we're seeing with online betting, we're a bit sceptical at the moment, waiting for footy and that get back in and see how people's gambling habits change. But there are some real green shoots. We can run racing and do it properly here. We just need the owners, the trainers, all of us to come with us. Yes, we'll have those whether it's forums or whatever you want to call them, get the industry experts in and try to map out what it looks like. Look, we won't get it right straight away. No. We know that, and we're going to have to modify and change it, but we're happy with that. So there's no 10-year plan, because you can tell me what's going to happen in 10 years' time with COVID and all this stuff going on. I know what's going to happen next month, let alone in 10 years. So for me, I'm going, this is what we need to do. Let's protect this industry. This industry has to grow. That's the biggest thing. Yeah. And how do we grow it? Right, we need to go to government. We need to get our consumption tax, share of our consumption tax, up to where it should be like the other states, because that again is dragging us down.
And Chris raised that on the panel last week. It was a very good point. That costs us so much as an industry.
Yeah, and you'll see that's one of the key points in that. We've got to get with the other codes. The fact the other codes don't talk to each other is a bit of an issue with thoroughbreds and greyhounds. But we'll go in there individually. We're actually seeing the government tomorrow, the minister tomorrow. It's a bit of a meet and greet, but part of the table will be part of this will be about the tax. When you talk about tax,
can you bring up and actually be really firm with him and say, when can we get people back to the track? People need to be able to go back and forget about the COVID thing right now. We've gone through the whole COVID process really, really well in terms of both thoroughbreds and greyhounds as well, and harness racing. But at the same time, we're all sitting home wanting to go to the track. And when they're saying 10,000 people can now go to footy in the Gold Coast on the weekend, how can we not have 200 at Globe Derby? Because that's all we need. Yeah. That's the crowd we get.
And I will say, look, if the racing club, it's up to them to let people in. Okay, we're running racing.
Yeah.
They're running the members and supporters, etc. So they're not going to open up for whatever reason. Now, we've spoken as Harness Racing South Australia, said maybe we're just going to area petition it off, make sure everyone behaves themselves and allow X amount of people, as long as they register, go through all the testings and start to introduce people in back like that. But the drama is there's no facilities. And that's going to be the issue.
So just to clarify that, so it's actually Globe Derby not letting owners back now. Like they could have.
Yeah, well, they can open up. Yeah. They can open up as a restaurant, as a bar, whatever they want it to be.
And that's why we're cordoned off still at that area by just past the winning post. So trainers and drivers could be that side, and you could, if Globe Derby or HRSA come out and said, they can, Rock, you probably could be on the other side of the fence. So maybe it isn't HRSA, it is Globe Derby.
Yeah. Look, we could let people in, but we're focused on racing rather than and we've got to focus on what we're right. All right. But if them as a club, they can allow people in. It's open now, and they've got at least 300 inside they can let in. That was as of last Friday. So there's plenty of space there for people to come to races.
It's an interesting point. Well raised.
Yeah.
Just another one, and you talked about racing market. The turnover and that somewhat increased through COVID, and we'd be interested to see the habits. But in principle, racing market share in your reports drops from somewhere 18 to 8. In lameness terms and dumbing it down for the rest of us, what is that the effect that actually has in round number terms on the industry?
In numbers terms, look, good question. Question. Look, it's the share of the pie. Look, ours is last year we had 10%, and it's dropped to 8%. So it's gone from 400k down to 340k. This is what we get per year from the government. Now, if I told you some numbers, 340k would pay for a month and a half of running races at Globe Derby Park, as if based it on May. So that we don't survive on that money. We survive on wagering. So what we really
number is a joke, George, that we get.
It is a joke.
The percentage
it is a joke.
Is given from the government to each of the codes in South Australia compared to what they get.
We are the lowest. Harness Racing South Australia is the lowest out of any racing code throughout Australia, including Tasmania. So this is why we need to get off our backsides as well and say, right, we need to go. We need to do something about this and put a case to it. So that's exactly what we'll be doing.
Good.
Now, it's certainly it's been good to hear you. I think Rocky and I, we speak daily, 3-4 times a day. Rocky probably gets sick of me calling, but I think when you first come in, George, it was probably a breath of fresh air to the industry, and then we got hit by COVID, unfortunately, and somewhat, people saying, we're hiding behind COVID. Where's the 5-year plan? But probably to get you on the show and just hear a few of those things is pleasing to me, and it'll be fresh air to a lot of people as well. That we're looking forward to some announcements in July and August, and just to see some normality return, but there's bigger issues on the table that you and your board are no doubt racking your brains how to.
Look, I will say I've enjoyed it. Like people go, "Are you mad?" Like, because I'm not frustrated. I just enjoy it because me as a marketer and business person, look, I won't say it can't get any worse. It can, but there's only improvement here, and you can start to see there's so much passion around the place now. We can get everyone working together and put away their self-interests. It's going to go a long way to us all going together because the ones who want to drag us down, let them go. Push them aside. Let's all go as a group and go where we need to go. Now we need to fix a lot of things along the way, and one of them is I'm really bullish about pushing up our prize money initially, within our means, obviously, and start to show people this is what the future can look like. You start to invest in harness racing, and this is what the future will look like. There'll be things like super weekends where there'll be all $10,000 races on a weekend for those South Australian horses who are owned and trained here, specifically for them. So the money stays here in South Australia. So there's all these things that's coming out.
Thinking outside the square. That's excellent.
The other thing I've spoken to you confidentially about what we want to do out in the Barossa and Gawler councils with the 3 codes out there.
So you're going to get me on tape now? He's not bad, is he?
But we say that they don't get on, right? We come up with the idea one night, as we do, when we think we're the smartest blokes in Australia, and and it was one phone call to the CEO of the Gawler Dogs, one phone call to the CEO of Harness, and one phone call to Shane Collins at the races, and every one of them said, we're in. Just like that.
Yeah.
They wanted to be a part of what we saw as the biggest event that they will see out there.
I love it, and I love the concept. I'm not sure where you're going with this, but I'm going to say it's not the CEOs that don't get on, it's the chairmans.
Right.
All right, they're the issues. And not me, I'm newbie. So you work it out yourselves.
And I think, and our show, Racing, Pacing, Chasing, we're trying to, and I think all dates are aligned, Rocky, at the moment. We touch wood, and hopefully we can announce a bit of a soft start this year. It's hard, we were trying to really launch something exciting this year, but on the back of COVID, you never know what's stopping us.
Yeah.
So it's hard to go too hard, you could say. But I think getting those codes working, get closer together, and you're certainly seeing that in Gawler because the 3 CEOs, you're right, are on the same page, and but it is, like you said, it's the bigger picture and aligning the boards and the chairmen to how we move forward as an industry, But on behalf of myself, and thanks for coming on, Rocky, as well.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming on tonight, George. We've got to get on and find the punters some winners, okay? And at the back of this, but I appreciate you, and I'd just like to reiterate some of the words I said as well. I think it's no one we didn't say any bad words about anyone at harness racing and saying the job they've done through COVID. I think to Ross New and Leanne Ewan, full credit to them. If you pass that back to them and the board to race us through COVID, understanding there's some trying times and there's those first 5 words were pretty slit your wrist type words, but if there is light at the end of the tunnel to see some positive change and throw caution to the wind, if we try something, we'd rather all see something tried like you would. Doesn't work, it doesn't work, but at least we've had a go. We've got really one last roll of the dice to make the sport we all love in South Australia work, the industry that we want to see, maintain, sustain, attract more people. But to you and your board, keep up, keep pressing, keep fighting the battles, and we're here to talk as well. And hopefully, last week, the start of that panel we got together was the start of some positive change as well, hearing the industry and their views. So
I'd love to hear more of them too, by the way. That was great.
And I think we need to bring more guests on the show to give us those views outside to help you and help the whole industry think outside the square and make this industry survive once and for all.
Yeah, good on you, mate.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us tonight, George,
My pleasure.
and we'll see you around on the Pacing Centre of Racing, Pacing and Chasing.